Hello, everyone. Is everybody where they want to be? I hear a lot of people talking. I know a lot of you folks, and there's some I don't know, but I want to welcome you all and thank you for coming to celebrate this ribbon-cutting event. Thank you, Phil. Water. Best drink in the world. This is a project I've been involved with for probably in one form or another for most of my 27 years at Manchester Waterworks. As many of you know, the city of Manchester has benefited from a single source of water, Lake Massabesic, since 1874. That's almost 150 years. The Lake Massabesic Water Treatment Facility began operation in 1974 and is now nationally recognized by the Partnership for Safe Water for Excellence in Water Treatment. That's since 2012. And we can consistently and proudly maintain these high standards today. As of this moment, the Lake Massabesic plant is one of only 19 treatment facilities nationwide recognized for excellence out of over 500 participating partnership facilities across the country. It's quite an accomplishment and a testament to the dedication and diligence of everyone at Manchester Waterworks, and in particular to our operations staff. We expect to achieve the same, thank you very much. And we anticipate achieving similar recognition for this new facility in the next couple of years. A 1985 study conducted by CDM, now known as CDM Smith. Miles, did you get that? Where's Miles? Okay, good, thank you. We determined the safe yield of the lake at a little over 20 million gallons per day based on precipitation records from the severe drought in the mid-1960s. Our current average demand for water is about 18 million gallons per day for the folks we serve. Roughly 90% of the safe yield of Lake Massabesic. And that's the primary reason for developing this additional water supply source. We've seen this day coming for decades, and now we're here. Manchester Waterworks currently serves a population of about 165,000 folks in Manchester and surrounding communities, and more recently includes serving towns in the southern New Hampshire Regional Water Supply Group, down to Salem, Hampstead, Atkinson, and all the way to Plastow. This Merrimack River water treatment facility produces a maximum of 7.2 million gallons per day and is now actively reducing the demand from the Lake Massabesic source, taking the stress off of that long-standing water supply. Operating this plant as a supplemental facility not only provides access to more water for our current customers, but also potentially a portion of the source water currently being investigated for an expanded southern New Hampshire regional water supply. We're drawing water from the Merrimack River in a very non-typical way, using a process called riverbank filtration. Just like the name implies, the water is withdrawn and naturally filtered through the sand and gravel layer beneath the bottom of the river. This provides a consistently high-quality raw water before entering this new facility for further treatment and a truly exceptional drinking water standards. If you notice the raw water turbidimeter later on, you'll see it's the water coming from that well is about 0.08 NTUs. Those water professionals know what an NTU is. In other words, but for the rest of you, it's very, very clean source water, which requires less engineered treatment down the road. And that's what we're benefiting from with this facility. So the water is withdrawn through the riverbank into what we call a radial collector well with lateral well screens positioned about 50 feet beneath the Merrimack River bottom. The radial collector well is located about 3/4 of a mile up the road here and pumps water here through what we have is our green sand filters to remove trace amounts of iron and manganese, then through granular activated carbon contactors to remove taste, odor, and other remaining contaminants that may exist. Water next travels through an ultraviolet light disinfection process is then chlorinated to complete the primary disinfection process, followed by final chemical addition for residual disinfection, pH adjustment, corrosion control, and fluoridation before pumping into the distribution system. Now that's quite an abbreviated history of how this project came to be and how it achieves our treatment goals. And I'm going to wrap this up by thanking some folks. There's so many people I wish to thank for making this project so successful, but you know, the list is very, very long. But I would like to express my sincere thanks to a few key folks for making construction of this facility such a successful and rewarding experience over the last couple of years. Carol Rigo, I know, is here. In particular, she's from CDM Smith, in particular for her expert guidance as we developed the preliminary design criteria for this facility that led the design, that gave a lot of information to the design team, how we were going to accomplish all the goals we set. To Al LeBlanc, CDM Smith, lead design engineer, for his ability to truly listen and respond to our ideas and concerns, the good, the bad, and the ugly. His attention to detail, his design team guidance, and his construction services support. Mark Smith, I know Mark is here, CDM Smith, for coordinating our biweekly progress meetings and keeping a large amount of submittals and correspondence during construction moving in a forward direction. Definitely not an easy thing to do. A lot of balls in the air. Miles Johnson, our resident engineer from CDM Smith, for his day-to-day persistent and watchful eye throughout construction and playing a huge role in establishing and keeping the construction relationship a win-win-win for Manchester Waterworks, CDM Smith, and for Methuen Construction. And most importantly, for introducing me and others to Kane's Donuts. Methuen Construction's A-team, we truly got the A-team. Jay Spooner, John Nelson, Matt Klaus, Ryan Brockaway, to name just a few, for their sincere effort and expertise to construct this beautiful facility and the pump station as well under very challenging post-COVID economic conditions, and for making sure that the engineers and owners' best interests always receive primary consideration. Not something you typically, in my experience, see a lot of effort given to from a contractor. These guys did a tremendous job. They proved over and over that they wanted this to be a successful project in the eyes of all parties, the owner, the engineer, and the general contractor, and we collectively achieved that goal. And of course, to our Manchester Waterworks project team led by Director Phil Crosdale, who's going to speak shortly. Jeremy Bouvier, our water supply engineer, who joined our team just a couple months after we began construction here and came up to speed very quickly, if I could turn the page, and was my valuable confidant and sounding board throughout the entire project. So happy to have him. And to Mike Pinard, our operations and maintenance manager, who leaped headfirst into learning the operation of this new facility during startup and testing, helping us refine the control logic, running the plant every day during startup and making sure all of our staff were properly trained. And I got to apologize profusely for cutting this list off at this point. There's so many others, but I got to draw the line here and give Director Crosdale an opportunity to address you. Bill, you're up.
Oh, thanks, Dave.
Should be on.
Hello? Hello? Thanks, Dave. I appreciate it. Can you hear me? Yeah. With the microphone? Well, thanks for being here today. Thanks to everybody for coming. Saw a lot of older faces. Including, hello? A lot of new faces, a lot of older faces. And I'm one of those older faces. We're all getting up there. It's been a long time. Mayor, thanks for coming. Senator D'Alessandro, Senator Susi, thanks for being here. The aldermen, commissioners, president, current and past, other guests. Thanks for being here. Really appreciate it. You know, back in 1959, we signed an agreement with a consultant to ascertain future water supply requirements for the city of Manchester. And that report was published in November of 1960. So on August 2nd, 62 years, 9 months later, in the making, when after several decades of discussions, planning, engineering studies, land purchases, easement purchases that we still have, Bob, change of plans, meaning more planning, engineering studies, land purchases, changes, and finally construction and completion around June of this year. Then after about 2 months of startup testing various systems of the plant, we released the water into the distribution system. And that day we all held our collective breaths back at the office, and Guy Chabot can attest to that. He got all the distribution ready and able to basically prepare for the worst or hopefully settle for the better. It was sort of our D-Day, and all of MWW was on full alert. But what we found is we had no leaks, there was no calls of dirty water, which could have resulted from flow reversals. There was no relevant pressure issues. Within 3 days, the plant was pumping at full capacity and functioning as planned and modeled. No water tasted different. Any comments from customers taking water from the Merrimack versus water from Lake Massabesic? And Massabesic and the Merrimack were finally mixed. And then this is really a testament to the engineering, planning, and workmanship of both CDM Smith and Methuen. Considering that the design and construction began in 2019 and work commenced in the spring of 2021, this facility and pump station were built right in the middle of the COVID pandemic, on time and on budget, and they did a heck of a job dealing with any of the issues that came about at that time period with as far as delivery of material and goods. I can't say enough good things and thanks to CDM and Methuen Construction. Congratulations to you guys. I hope you're as proud of this project as we are at Manchester Waterworks. I had a list of thanks individually, and I pretty much mirror Dave's sentiments for all the individuals that participated in the engineering construction of this project. I'd just like to say, if you take a tour of the plant, and I hope you do, I hope you have at least 2 takeaways. First, you might see on the wall, when you can look at, it's on the wall, a picture of the process of the treatment plant. And I hope you see that it's pretty much a simple concept of what we're trying to accomplish here. Taking water, filtering it, adding disinfection, a little bit of fluoride back into the water system. It doesn't sound like it's a really complicated issue. But I'd like you to really appreciate, as you go through the plant and down at the pump station, how complicated the process is to make that happen. What stood out in my mind is the brilliance to take an idea, formulate it on paper, design every last little detail, and then see the workmanship to the minutia to bring those ideals and detail to life. The impression I got watching this whole construction period for the last 2.5 years was just was unbelievable. But hopefully, you, like I said, take a tour, go through the plant, and really take in the detail and just imagine what it took to really put this whole project together. On September 14th, another date in which we got the first benefit of this treatment plant. On September 14th was a Thursday night. And if you lived in Manchester, you pretty much just went to bed and not thought too much of anything. But about 9 o'clock at night, I got a phone call from Mark Burke saying that we have low pressure problems on the west side, but nobody's calling in for a leak. Eventually, the issue was identified as a 20-inch main break on an 1879 pipe in the Merrimack River, one of our river crossings. We lost about 15,000 gallons a minute. About a little over 4 million gallons over a four and a half hour period until we were able to isolate the problem. That was probably as much as or more water that was lost during the Lowell Street leak that the mayor can remember. First day on the job. Several winters ago. At over 100 pounds of pressure, if that leak would have been 100 yards west or 100 yards east, it could have very well have taken out 293 or put a pretty good sized pool into Arms Park. It was just, but yet this plant was able to pump 7 million gallons into that system and maintain pressure until we could finally isolate it. We were pumping together this plant and the Massabesic plant, 27 million gallons, and we weren't keeping up with the tanks. So without the 7 million gallons coming from this plant, we probably would have had a lot more phone calls and issues to deal with throughout Manchester. So it's already reaping the benefits. Dedication, we talked about excuse me. After discussions with staff and some former employees, we felt that too many individuals are involved in this project over the years to put one name on the building. After 60 years, you can only imagine the number of people and organizations who had a role to make this happen. From start to finish, 1960, we've had 8 directors I'm number 12. We've had 10 board presidents, 15 mayors, literally hundreds of commissioners and aldermen, all of them supporting the concept and the project that you see come to fruition today. Tom Bowen, Bob Boravage, and Dave Paris. They worked on this project since 1987 until their retirements. Richard Samuels from McLean. He's our one-man legal team, and even to this day, I call him every so often and deal with issues. Dave Miller, Guy Chabot, and Jeremy Bouvier. Consultants, engineers, lawyers over the last 40 years. The town of Hooksett, the Department of Environmental Services, Wright Pierce, who were the engineers for the bank filtration project, and the design and construction services for CDM. And of course, CDM and Methuen. Excuse me, the construction service for the radio collector well. And for me personally, especially to the MWW employees from top to bottom, who don't get nearly enough recognition for their commitment day in and day out, all the workers past and present. This long-awaited once-upon dream and now reality is dedicated to all of you and to us for a job well done. And from the bottom of my heart, great job.
Thank you, Phil. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Jay Spooner from Methuen Construction to say a few words. Just a few, Jay.
I'm just waiting for the time for the final change order for the. No, I'm just kidding. That's right. When I started this job, I didn't have glasses, so it tells you the effort put forth to burn it out. So good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Manchester Water Treatment Facility. I'm Jay Spooner, project executive with Methuen Construction, and proud to represent the company here today at this memorable ceremony for the Manchester Waters Plant, as we say, built in Hooksett along the Merrimack River. For sure a mouthful, and as the many New Hampshire names that are associated with that indicates, the facility serving a very large portion of our great state. So there's nothing to be taken lightly here on, as Phil and Dave had already previously mentioned, the magnitude of the importance of this facility. So again, it's really unique and powerful that we're able to participate in this day. With that said, on behalf of Methuen, I want to thank our project group. David mentioned them earlier, but nothing can be said. We don't build this facility alone. We have an enormous team behind the scenes most of which is not here today, but all diligent, hardworking people in our industry who participated in making this a success. Here today, John Nelson, Matt Klaus, Ryan Brockway, Libby Curran, and Sarah Page, all major project partners, along with the City of Manchester, the Town of Hooksett, CDM Smith, and as I mentioned, our numerous subs and vendors. Again, I can't emphasize enough, without that group of people, we are not here today, able to witness this magnificent operational facility you see behind you. Again, we're able to speak more candidly about the project and all the behind-the-scenes stuff that we kept away from Manchester and CDM Smith. But without getting into all the specific details, we started this job in the spring of 21 and entered into an agreement with the City of Manchester, and off we went, or so we thought. We as our nation was coming out of COVID, not a lot happened in our country in the world for that whole year. As we soon find out when we start ordering equipment and raw materials, it wasn't coming. We luckily were able to mitigate and work with the project team, the City of Manchester, CDM Smith, and able to develop workarounds and resequence the project to get what we have here today. Had we not been able to make that collaborative triangle effort on working together, it would have been just way more complicated than it already was. But again, a true testament to that team spirit. One of the more significant ones was electrical components. So as you see here today, the plant is run with the pumps and controlled by what we call variable frequency drives. Normally 25, 30 week lead time after approval, right? So here was about 75 to 80 weeks after approval that they were finally delivered. We worked around it. We didn't slow down. We came up with a plan. We worked around it, thanks to the city, CDM Smith, and two of our very important vendors, subcontractors, EII, who's here today, and Ewing Electric. So as you can see, the electrical room looks beautiful today. About 3 months ago, it looked like Dr. Frankenstein's office with wires and gadgets hanging out all over the place. And it was tough even conceiving that we'd be here today with a fully operational facility. We brought in temporary VFDs from New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas to get the plant to continue our testing process. So we're pretty proud of that, and that's one of the many stories of the project to get where we are today. As my friend Miles Johnson already says, without this cooperative and collaborative approach by the project team in dealing with supply chain issues, as well as any other issues that cropped up on this project, we're not standing here today, and proudly showing off this state-of-the-art facility for the citizens of Manchester and New Hampshire. As we proudly point to our granite monument, true testament, signify our immense pride in building this facility with this team, and like the New Hampshire granite, this facility will do well to serve our community of New Hampshire for many, many years to come. So I want to thank everyone and let you know a little behind the scenes stuff. If anyone wants to grab me later, I'd be glad to share more stories. Everyone likes stories. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, you've heard that we had a real good spirit of collaboration and cooperation. You know, this project had a lot of challenges, some delays. Everything was overcome. You know, we were never involved in pointing fingers between the owner and the engineer and the contractor. we tried to understand the problem as quickly and clearly as we could, and then put all of our effort into making sure that we solved it in a timely fashion. I've never worked on a project that's been this smooth. I mean, it's not like we didn't have bumps in the road. We had plenty of them, but we worked together as a well-oiled machine to make this project a success. And that's not the typical way that, from my experience, how construction projects go. This was very unique, and I'm very proud to have been a part of that. At this time, I'm very pleased to introduce Mr. Al LeBlanc. He's the lead designer of this wonderful facility, and he's a good friend, and you're on deck for the Bourbon Summit, that's what I've been told. That's an inside joke.
Thanks, Dave. Thank you, Dave. Again, I'm Al LeBlanc from CDM Smith. CDM Smith was the engineering firm that led the project to this point. Our task in a nutshell over the last 4 or 5 years was, where are we going to put this plant? Is it going to be right here? Is it going to be somewhere else? How are we going to treat the water? We got to design it, bid it, construct it, start it up. So all of those steps are a synopsis of what's happened in the last 5 years. If you like numbers, we're around 200 drawings to present the details of this place. We've had hundreds of conversations with Manchester Waterworks and others, and really tens of thousands of details go into a job like this, as some of our prior speakers mentioned. So a lot went into it, and it's really gratifying to be part of this today. Sincere congratulations to the City of Manchester, to Manchester Waterworks, to the Manchester Waterworks Board, to state elected officials, to the Department of Environmental Services. The great forethought, planning, and cooperative spirit is absolutely notable. I've been working 29 years, and I've done plants in 15 states. This is absolutely top of class. What a great group of people in the state, in government, at the waterworks, the operations staff, you name it. So sincere kudos to that crew. Also kudos back to Methuen Construction. The construction of a facility starting in 2021 in a global pandemic is unbelievable, right? So that can't be overstated. I truly feel we got the A-team. We got such high-quality staff from Methuen Construction. They cared about building the job and billing and making money, but they absolutely cared about the quality of this job. So big congratulations to them. In closing, we really all sincerely appreciate being part of it, to have worked with all of you. It's a collaborative, cooperative spirit. It's super satisfying. It was fun. Sorry, I'll end on that. It was fun, and thank you very much.
All right, and of course, we need to hear from our regulatory authority. Is Mr. Mike Unger here? Yes, he is. And a shout out to Jim Week. He was with GZA. He was played a huge role in preparing the large groundwater withdrawal permit application, which is a monster of a document, and it enabled us to be here today. Because if that didn't work, we wouldn't be. So.
Thanks, Dave. Good afternoon, I guess now. My name's Mike Unger. I'm a water engineer and project manager at the New Hampshire Department of Environmental Services in the Drinking Water Program. And I've worked closely with Manchester Waterworks for over 5 years, both on this project and the Southern New Hampshire Regional Water Project, and very grateful to be invited here today. And on behalf of our Commissioner, Bob Scott, our Water Division Director, Rainey Pelletier, and the Administrator of the Drinking Water Groundwater Bureau, Brandon Kernan, I congratulate the Board of Water Commissioners, Mayor and Aldermen, the leadership and the staff of Manchester Waterworks on the successful startup of the Merrimack River Radial Collector Well and Water Treatment Plant. And I said successful startup and not completion because this is just the beginning, and we're going to turn the keys over to the highly qualified operational staff at Manchester Waterworks to continue to operate and produce high quality, reliable drinking water that meets all of our standards as they have for decades at Lake Massabesic. The mission of DES is to help sustain a high quality of life for all citizens by protecting and restoring the environment and public health in New Hampshire. Specifically, the Drinking Water and Groundwater Bureau protects public health by ensuring safe and reliable drinking water, and Manchester Waterworks has long been a valued partner with the state in achieving this mission. They lead by example, but for instance, through their participation in the Partnership for Safe Water. Their staff and leadership are active in New Hampshire Waterworks, New England Waterworks, and the American Waterworks Association. They offer their facilities for training and the Drinking Water Festival. Manchester supplies high-quality, reliable drinking water to approximately 200,000 people, as Phil mentioned, and hundreds of businesses, directly or indirectly, in Manchester and the surrounding communities. And these numbers are only growing in the face of contaminants of emerging concern like PFAS, as private well owners and small public water systems are looking for safe, reliable water supply. Manchester's participation in the Southern New Hampshire Water Project is critical to its success and is supplying 1 million gallons a day to 5 communities in southern New Hampshire, and completion of this facility will allow that to increase another 2 million gallons a day in phase 2. So briefly, just wanted to mention from DES's perspective, this project ticks a lot of the boxes, meets a lot of the principles that we encourage for all of the public water systems throughout the state. I'll just touch on a few briefly so that we can wrap things up. But first and foremost, planning for the future. You heard the date 1960, so a project like this doesn't come about overnight. It requires a lot of upfront planning. Manchester's been collecting its Merrimack Source Development Charge for years up front in anticipation of this. Hydrogeological studies, engineering studies, land acquisition, all years in advance. If you're stuck in an emergency or urgent situation, a project like this couldn't happen or wouldn't be as well conceived. So that's the second point, creativity and engineering with nature. The riverbank filtration provides high source water quality that requires less chemical to treat, produces less waste. Again, it took a lot more work up front than just a regular intake from a surface water, and the planning that went into that, but it's reaping the benefits. Climate resilience in the face of changing environmental conditions, diversifying sources, and being prepared for different potential future conditions. Having a second source in Manchester is a huge win for this region of the state. And lastly, I just wanted to point out staff training and internal advancement, and I've been incredibly impressed with how the operators have jumped in right from the beginning during design, construction, and startup, and now operation, and that this plant will provide an opportunity for a lot of the operators in Manchester to get new skills and training and become the future of the workforce. We need more drinking water operators in New Hampshire, and really appreciate Manchester's efforts in that front. So to close, again, congratulations to Manchester Waterworks and the city on this successful startup, and thank you all very much.
Just a quick note, we made it a clear point to engage New Hampshire DES very early on in the project. My goal was to make them part of the design team and keep them as close to the progress of the project as possible. There's so many regulatory hoops and hurdles and things we have to comply with, which is absolutely fine. But having them as partners throughout the process meant so much, and I think it made it definitely contributed to the success of the project. So thank you, Mike Unger, and all your staff and the folks from DES. It was truly appreciated. Just a reminder, before I ask Mayor Craig to come up, we are going to have some lunch, hopefully. In a little while, and also some tours if you want to take a walk around. There's some mugs and I believe some water bottles that we would love to give out. There's a pamphlet that kind of describes the project a little bit. Please help yourself to all that stuff. And at this point, we are very pleased to have Mayor Joyce Craig come on up and say a few words, and then we'll do the ribbon cutting.
Good afternoon. It's so great to be with all of you here today. It's such an exciting day. I want to start by thanking Director Crosdale, the Water Commission, and all of the past and present Manchester Waterworks employees. It's because of your dedication and hard work that we have safe, clean drinking water for residents across our state. I know it's not a small feat, and I know it takes a lot, but I just want you to know how much you're appreciated. This new source and treatment facility will provide our existing and future customers with ample water of the highest quality for many generations to come. The riverbank filtration and withdrawal technology being used to take water from the Merrimack ensures minimal environmental impact to the river. And then natural filtration means that water will need minimal treatment, providing a savings to the consumer. So while this technology has been used several decades in other parts of the country, it's the first time that it's being used in New Hampshire. And I want to congratulate Manchester Waterworks and say that now Manchester, again, is leading the way. The City of Manchester and Manchester Waterworks have a long history of working with our neighboring communities, and we've been on the forefront of responding to the needs of our communities throughout the state. In the 80s, Manchester Waterworks stepped up to help Derry when they lost their water source to contamination. Since then, we've expanded water service far into the neighboring towns of Londonderry, Bedford, Hooksett, Auburn, and Goffstown. By doing this, Manchester has ensured that tens of thousands of New Hampshire residents have safe drinking water. Today, we serve over 75,000 people that live outside of Manchester with Manchester Waterworks treated water, providing peace of mind to so many. In April of 2019, Manchester Waterworks signed an interconnection agreement to provide water to southern New Hampshire towns that were impacted by PFAS contamination. With this treatment plant now in operation, Manchester and Manchester Waterworks have fulfilled this promise, and these communities now have safe drinking water. So, as we all know, unfortunately, clean water continues to be a stressor in many New Hampshire communities. And I'm so grateful for Manchester Waterworks that they're always seeking ways to develop additional water sources to provide good, clean drinking water to our city and to neighboring communities being impacted by contaminated water. So again, I want to thank you for all that you've done. It's wonderful to see many past Waterworks folks here. It's a tremendous feat that you've accomplished, and I'm happy to have been a small part of it. Thank you. Okay.
I need some help from a few old timers to put this banner out. I'm going to call on any former director, assistant director, to please come on up here. I know that there's a Mr. Kittredge is around here somewhere. Come on up, please. Don't hurt yourself with those things. This is a good photo op. Get right in there. All right, let's cut the cake. That's a tough cut. Oh, he did it. Nice job. Like I said, come on inside. You're welcome to some of the swag we have, and we'll do some quick tours of the facility. We can also bring you up to the pumping station if you like to see that. So thank you all very much again, and enjoy the rest of the day. And if the food's a little late, I'm going to give you all the rest of the day off. So.
actually, all the piping you see, there's just almost as much piping in the ground.
Yeah.
To carry a lot of these chemicals across. Raw water comes in, and the first aspect of the process of these green sand filters. And they call them green sand filters. I don't know why, because actually the material is darker color. But what that does really is take out any manganese that's in the water. We have very little manganese, but it does go over the MCL occasionally. That's really the only issue coming out of the well, out of the raw water coming out of the wells down the road. But this green sand filters handles it. It's the best form of filtration for that type of issue.
So is this water built, you know how they are potentially
After release the green sand filters, the water comes into activated charcoal granules filters, like carbon filters. It's the carbon filters that really is the primary filtration process for taking care of PFAS. If people have PFAS problems and they have their own filtration system in their home, there'll be a carbon filter. So it was designed this way with the carbon filters for down the road. If we ever have an issue, there's no PFAS at all, zero in the water coming out of the well. And you have to remember, the water comes down the river, it's filtered through the riverbed 30 feet below the riverbed with these radial collectors that go out 200 feet, there's 6 of them. The water comes into the well is 16 feet in diameter, and then it's pumped from there. So it's almost like, it's really spring water. If we can get you a sample, someday we'll get you a sample of it, you can see. It's very, extremely clean water. And it makes it easier for us to, keeps the cost down as far as the cost to filter it and get any kind of color out of it. You know the color of the lake. We spend probably $500,000 on alum each year to get the organics out of the lake, to get it brown and get it down to a much more palatable color. But anyways, it goes through the granulated charcoal filters. And it's pretty simple. You can read the doors. Fluoride, ammonia, phosphoric acid. It goes through. And what this does is sort of like it zaps it. Filters take care of the big things. Bacteria, any kind of bacteria or large particles. The viruses are like the smallest of particles. So if the viruses can survive going through the filters, the UV, like I said, it's sort of like a highly charged reactor, and it just zaps them like a bug light in the backyard. It takes care of viruses and things like that, the smaller particles. And then
Go ahead, Kevin. I'll go.
we have 3 finished water pumps and 2 backwash pumps. All together. About 3.5 million gallons a day pump. chloride, it's going to get boric acid, phosphorus, that's an inhibitor. So it goes in the water, it prevents any leaching from lead, things like that. We don't have any lead in our pipes, but if you have lead in the home, it prevents it from leaching into the pipes. And then we also add ammonia to chlorine to make chloramine. You're hearing about that. Instead of free chlorine, you put the 1 part ammonia, 5 parts of chlorine, and it's mixed together, and it creates chloramine. The reason we go with chloramine is because it has a longer residual. We have our distribution system goes out, miles. 500 miles. 500 miles. So it stays in the system longer. So all that's added to the water, and it goes into the tank over here that you saw outside. It's a 500,000 gallon tank. If you look on the wall, there's a picture of it, a cross section from the top. It has these walls in the tank, baffling walls. So the water circulates around there. It gives the water the opportunity to mix the ammonia, phosphorus, and create the chloramines, and then the water comes back into the plant, and then the finished water pumps will pump it into the distribution system. Back in 2006, we put in a river crossing down from River Road and Union Street, Derryfield School, where the ball fields are. There's a road on the side there, we're along the ball field. We have a 20-inch pipe that goes down that hill through the woods and underneath the riverbed and comes up right out here. If you go outside, you have a chance, you'll see a hydrant out here. That hydrant was here before this was built. But that's where the pipe comes up. The pipe came up, and then the pipe continued on up to Route 3A. The reason we put that pipe in because we used to have a dead end. The only way we could bring water to this end when they started developing off of exit 10, the dead end, our system ends right around Dunkin' Donuts up the road here. So the water would come from Merrimack Bridge. We have a main underneath the bridge that crosses 293, and it would go down Front Street, and it would come up all the way up to 3A, take care of Hackett Hill, all that development, all the way down to Quality Drive. So it's really, we created a loop for protection that if we ever had a leak, if we didn't have this river crossing and we had a leak at the Merrimack Bridge, and the Merrimack Bridge, including Hackett Hill, Dunbarton Road, everything, they'd all be out of water until we fix it. So now we have now with the loop, we can always backfeed it if they have a problem up here. So, and that was also the reason we had the river crossing here, the location. They foresaw, Tom and Bob and Dave, they foresaw that this was going to happen. We knew this was going to happen. We knew it was going to be, we were going to take water from the Merrimack River. We were going to probably build a treatment plant somewhere. We had two options. We were going to build a treatment plant. Well, we built the treatment plant here. The second option was to build it. We own 7 acres of land around the pump station. You go down there, it's really, we're giving the owners, property owners down there an easement. Because we own all that land. There's a road that goes through it. You drive down. But it's an easement. We have to maintain it, so there isn't enough space. There wasn't enough space to build a treatment plant down there next to the pump station, and then pump finished water into the system. Either way, we would have had to install the 20-inch main that goes from the pump station to the distribution system right out here. So we're coming up the road either way, so we decided that we'll just pump station, take the water, and pump the raw water up here, treat it up here. Now the second reason we put the pump station, we actually bought land over by, well, right across the street here, where we have the river crossing. We were considering putting the pump station there, but there was a very high salt content in the water due to the highway. They put the salt on the road, people push it into the water, and it was just too much salt to deal with. So they kept testing, doing boring, testing the water quality. They went right down the river. The last thing I want to leave you with is that originally we were going to do a regular intake type withdrawal from the river. And the reason that we decided against that was because of the filtration process of using the nice rocky sandy bottom underneath the riverbed as a filtration. We estimate to save hundreds of thousands of dollars a year in additional chemical costs when withdrawing from the river directly. And you never know what's going to happen in the future. The river's the river. Things happen upstream that might have affected. But with taking water from so far down, that filtration eliminates, we think, any problems that could happen upstream. And as we know, PFOAs is a major concern. And the last thing I'll leave you with PFOAs, and Mayor Alderman, everybody, is out at the Massabesic plant, we do have PFOAs in the lake. And we treat that through, because we have anthracite through this carbon filtration out there to get the PFOAs down. I will say right now, we're probably just over the allowable limit if they come out with the new regulations. It's 4 parts per trillion. We're probably at right around 5. And that's really not an issue. What it's going to mean is we're going to have to change out our anthracite on a more regular basis. And that will cost, very expensive. But we will be able to get that down below the regulated limit if and when we go to that 4 parts per trillion. So we have very, very protected, I think, very protected water system.
What is it at now?
Great treatment. It's at right around 5.
What's the limit?
Oh, right now it's 11. So we're well below the state limit. It's whether or not they go to the EPA, what the EPA is recommending. That's going through committees now. Most people think that you talk to think it's going to happen. Usually, when it gets to this point, it's going to happen. So I think we'll be ready for it. There will be some added cost to us, but we'll be able to handle it. Yeah.